K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we're expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org. The leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them.
Republicans and Democrats.
All right, folks. Well, happy Saturday morning. It is time for Finding Common Ground. You know what time that, or what that means. That means it's just a few minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock Central, 10 Eastern, right here on K98 Talk, home of the Spark Radio Network programming. And I am joined today, of course, by my co-host, Bryce Robbins. How are you today, sir?
I am doing good because for the first time in a couple weeks, I got to sleep for more than 6 hours.
What is this thing you call sleep? Please explain.
It's like you go off into this heaven land and everything is just so mushy and nice. It's beautiful.
I could take the conversation in a completely different direction, and I'm just not going to go there because I haven't had enough coffee yet.
Well, I can add in the fact that when you're sleeping, it's like just a constant Bernie chant. Just Bernie, Bernie. And just like your heart feels so warm, and the wealth is redistributed, and your body just feels great. Rick, are you okay?
I'm sorry. I had to mute my microphone while I was repeatedly banging my head against my desk to make sure that I could get the thought of the Bernie chant out of my head. Thank you for ruining my morning first thing into the show.
No problem. I had to.
That's all right. Since you've mentioned him, we'll just kick the show off right, and we'll play your little theme song to your new love interest here.
Well, while you're playing that song, I should give one quote out before we start the show. I mean, wrap it up. Bernie Sanders, actually, his favorability last week doubled. Well, Hillary Clinton's dropped by 5 points. So, I'm wondering if she can feel the Bernie.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure Hillary's about to trade her pantsuit for a prison orange jumpsuit, so I don't think it's really going to matter.
I read about that, and I was so happy.
Okay, enough of that guy for right now. But I do have him queued up, because, I know you're going to mention that guy more than once today. Okay, so for those of you listening through TuneIn or possibly one of the other areas that were picked up at that can't necessarily see the title of the show, this one's going to be an interesting one today, folks. The title of the show is called House Hunting and Show Prep Don't Mix, because I have not had time to do anything all week but sit in for Red Nation Rising Radio, which was a really big deal. And before I forget, I want to give them a shout out, and I forgot to mention this to you before, Bryce, but I thought this was pretty cool. Red Nation Rising Radio had recently submitted themselves to Stitcher shortly after coming over and becoming the K98 Talk family. Well, just in their little over month and 3-week tenure here, they have managed to make a pretty impressive list on Stitcher. In the news and politics category, they have not only hit the top 100, they have basically shattered it, coming in at number 79 in just 7 weeks on their list. I thought that was pretty amazing.
Damn.
I know. Am I the only one being really bitter and jealous because I've been doing my show for a year? I've gotten maybe one award. They've been on here for 7 weeks, and on Stitcher for 7 weeks, and they already broke the top 100. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Jared and Lou to death, but inside secretly, well, at least up until now, I've been a little jealous. I'm just saying.
I feel you. I feel you. That is something you'd be jealous about.
Although I do have a little solace, because the week they broke into that and made the announcement was the first week I sat in for them. So yeah, I feel like I can take a little bit of credit for that. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, it's been a fun couple of weeks because their show dynamic is so much different than anything I've ever done. And the first Thursday was crazy because there were 60 some odd people in the chat room. Every single one of them had questions for JD Winteregg, who is the guy that is hoping to unseat Orangey Orange, aka Orange Crush, aka Boner, aka Not Sure Where My Balls Are, Speaker of the House John Boehner. So yeah, that's pretty much what I did all show, was a rapid fire Q&A session, grabbing him from the chat, giving them to him, letting him answer him, and then moving on right next to the next one. Because I honestly kind of thought that's how the show was supposed to work. And then I sat in with Lou, who produced the other day, and she's like, who actually usually does the interview section. She's like, you didn't really have to do that many of the questions, but it was pretty cool. I was like, I don't know. I didn't have anything to ask the guy, so I just figured I'd give him the questions and let him answer them. And they're like, well, the fans really like that, so thank you. I'm like, well, I don't know. What do I know? But anyway, so yeah, much different show dynamic. Actually, Jared, who usually produces, sent me a 3-page rundown of basically every second of the show. It was kind of intimidating.
What do you look for in an antiperspirant?
I forgot to shut down the
It just
server.
has to work.
Now it has an ad playing.
It is everything. Have you tried new Dove Advanced Care?
Whoa.
Yay for ad blockers not working.
Hey, it's alright. The reasons why we don't break the top 100.
Hey! That kind of hurt. You ever thought the reason we don't break the top 100 is because you're always waxing Bernie poetic? Maybe
Probably.
It's your fault, man.
The reason I had to jump on that is because there's so limited times when I can actually, honk on Rick for something, that happens. So I have to take my shots when I get them.
Hey, you're learning from me, because that's what I told you months ago.
I know. I learned from the master.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
All right. So, I do have a few things I kind of wanted to touch on. There's been a few interesting developments with the Planned Parenthood thing. Unfortunately, I was a bad boy and did not do my homework this week. So, but I do know enough to know that I'm starting to be concerned, especially when major sponsors like Coca-Cola and a few other folks that have actually made public record donations to Planned Parenthood are like, yeah, no, we're done. That concerns me.
Yeah, that could concern one.
I mean, I don't know. Just knowing what I know about Planned Parenthood's history and the fact that at some point or another it was actually... the entire concept was founded around the idea of exterminating a single race of people, and now we have national leaders saying that they hope that God blesses Planned Parenthood and they do great works. Hillary. And now these kind of stories start coming out, and then of course they tried to steer it a little bit, and they're like, well, we're not actually selling the body parts, we're donating them, but we do accept donations in return.
All right. I guess I want to steer this just to kind of, fuel the fire here a little bit, but I feel like nobody talks about it enough. Let's say, hypothetically, they are selling aborted fetuses. In other cases, normally the aborted fetuses are disposed of as medical waste. So by selling them or donating them and accepting donations, what's wrong with it?
You mean other than the fact that it violates federal law?
Okay, that is wrong with it, really. Wow. I know that they just dispose of them as medical waste most of the time. That's at least what I've read. So
well, apparently they may not be doing quite as much disposing as we thought.
Yeah, I'm really having a hard time defending this. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make debate here, David.
No. I commend you for the effort. I have to say, I was surprised that you would be like, hey, well, let's look at this, and they usually just throw them out anyway, so what's the harm in selling them? I'm like, did he really just went there? The harm in selling them is it violates about a half a dozen federal statutes. Even to donate them and accept donations in return is technically a violation of a couple dozen federal statutes. What concerns me is, and this is just in my opinion, how twisted everything has gotten. So, basically, all of this stuff starts coming out about all these things that Planned Parenthood may or may not be doing that are possibly violations of the law. However, instead of, the DOJ taking one or two of those things and maybe looking into it a little further, seeing if maybe whoever's bringing this stuff out is on a witch hunt, seeing if it's accurate, that's my perspective. Hey, this has come to light. We should look into it. If it's wrong, then we can go after the people that started it and say, hey, you can't do this. And if it's right, we can say, hey, Planned Parenthood, what's your problem? But instead, the DOJ is going after the group that exposed Planned Parenthood.
Well, we have the Attorney General of California announced on Friday that she was going to be reviewing the two undercover anti-abortion activists aimed at Planned Parenthood. But I would like to just hope that this really isn't true, because that's just fucking sick. I always say I'm very anti-abortion, but the way to stop abortions is not making them harder to get. The way to stop abortion, I believe, is making contraception a lot easier and keeping abortion available for any necessary, times. But banning it just makes, more opportunities for MTV to make TV shows, like the weird ones, like Mom 16 or whatever it's called, 16 and Pregnant.
Can we not just get back to the time when MTV actually just played music?
That's so true. I mean, people, I don't think any teenager really watches them anymore. They've degraded from a known television network for music and music videos, and now all their shows are junky skateboard TV weird shows about pregnant moms and failure fathers.
Yeah, I just want to say for the record, I'm old. I remember when MTV first came out. I actually was not a fan of it at first because I preferred listening to music on the radio. I still actually kind of do. But I miss the times when if you wanted to watch a music video, you could turn to MTV and there would basically be something playing and you could listen to their selections and kind of jam out and have a little bit of fun. Now you turn it on and it's just TV. I think they need to remove the M from their logo and find a new name, like Junk TV or something, because it's all a bunch of crap.
Shit TV.
Well,
right, we got just from Planned Parenthood to MTV.
Well, yeah, but that's how this show rolls, man. We just kind of see where the conversation takes us. But anyway,
that's true.
It is about time for that first official break, so we are going to have to pay some bills. We'll be right back here in just a couple seconds. You are listening to Finding Common Ground. I'm Rick Robinson. We'll be right back.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
Never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Wow! Good God, y'all! What is it good for? Absolutely!
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Wondering why you're up early with us on a Sunday morning making a cocktail? News lately got you drinking? Hung over from the mainstream media by Sunday? We are, and we got you covered.
We sure do. We got your hangover cure for those weekly news blues. So sit back, top off your mimosa, and add some Baileys to that coffee.
Take a match to your copy of the New York Times. Light, funny, and oh yeah, news with booze.
And a lot of laughter.
Welcome to Bloody Marys and Broadsheets.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rails. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
Our military service members volunteer to protect us in the most dangerous places around the world. They step up. And when they are severely ill or injured, returning to their families is only the beginning of their long road home. Wounded Warrior Project provides these brave men and women whatever they need to continue their fight for independence at no cost for life. So now it's time for a grateful nation to step up. Join us at findwwp.org.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is Finding Common Ground, and we are about a quarter of the way through the show. A little bit more than that now. But anyway, so at this point, thanks for everybody hanging out through the commercials. We're going to get back to the show now. Now, during the break, Bryce mentioned something that I definitely wanted to make sure that we had talked about. But again, house hunting and show prep don't mix. So thanks, Bryce, for bringing that back up, because it definitely was one of the topics I wanted to discuss today.
So recently Donald Trump was in an interview and he called John McCain, he said he wasn't a war hero, regardless of his captivity and that he was in solitary confinement for 5 years. Donald Trump made an attack on Trump, questioning whether or not he was a war. Well, not really questioning, but saying that he wasn't. So we're going to play the clip. It's pretty short. So here, Rick, are you ready for the clip?
Whenever you are.
All right, here we go.
He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. 5.5 years. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you. Do you agree with that? He's a war hero because he was captured, okay? You can have, and I believe perhaps he's a war hero.
All right, so that's what he said. So Rick, what's your thoughts? I know my opinion.
Okay, so twofold here. My first problem is someone who's never served a day in the life or a day of their life in the military and actually managed to pull off several different deferments should sit down and shut the hell up when it comes to who is or is not a war hero. I may not like McCain politically, but let's reiterate a few things here. He was in captivity for 5 years. 5 years. His bones were broken, grown back correctly or incorrectly, and rebroken again for a 5-year period because they kept asking him questions because they wanted information. They kept telling him, give us what we want and we will let you go. If he was in there for 5 years, obviously he didn't give them what they wanted. Now, do I think that maybe later in life, now he's having some issues? Possibly, because of his captivity. That is entirely probable. Do I think that now that he's gotten older, maybe he doesn't have the fight in him that he once did, and it's one of the reasons why he keeps letting, or not only in the beginning of his turnaround, seemed to start letting the establishment run over him, and now seems to have joined them. But for someone who basically was riding around in a limousine while this man was in a POW camp, to say what he said about John McCain, even as much as I dislike John McCain politically, I would never, ever detract from his war record. And I say that knowing another fellow naval aviator, Dr. Randy Arrington, who I've interviewed recently, who's actually point blank, because he's been in discussions with John McCain, told him that he thinks he's lost his ever-loving mind. Face to face, nose to nose. But he still, every time I talk to him, says, look, I don't agree with McCain, but he's a fellow naval aviator. He will always be a hero in my mind because there's only a few of us that have been able to do what he's done and what I've done. And as far as I'm concerned, no matter what, that makes anybody who's willing to put on a uniform and actually take the chance and the risk of dying for their country, whether it's by draft or by choice, a hero. And that's the stance I have for McCain in regards to this. Now, again, Donald Trump is not a politician. He's not used to putting things through poll testing. He's not used to getting feedback from consulting groups before he opens his mouth. Here's what I think he was trying to do, and again, failing miserably. I think what he was trying to do, and again, I'm not a mind reader, but this is the only part of this that makes a little bit of sense to me, is bring out to the forefront the fact that John McCain himself, a former POW / MIA type person, has been taking rather large, painful, and brutal pot shots at fellow POW MIA type people. So was that what he was trying to bring to the forefront by, saying, hey, he's not really that much of a hero? Maybe he should have elaborated a little more about why he felt that way instead of saying, hey, I prefer the guys that weren't captured. Really? I mean, I understand that you have all this glue holding your hair onto your head, but does it really seep that far into your gray matter that you can't form coherent sentences? This is not the type of person we need as a president. We already have someone who can only get their information by reading a teleprompter. Now we have somebody running for office that has no filter. That's not good.
I don't think that the issue with Donald Trump is that he doesn't have a filter, but I do think in this statement that he made about John McCain, I think I'm not going to say that John McCain's not a war hero or he's not whatever, but I will say that John Kerry his war record has been denounced many times. Nobody came to his defense. Or at least it didn't seem like the media had this much of an outrage against it. Al Franken said very similar comments to Donald Trump, very similar comments to Donald Trump about John McCain. Nothing was really said. Even Chris Rock, in a comedy skit, said very similar things to Donald Trump. Nobody was outraged. But it seems when Donald Trump said it, I guess he's getting backlash. But obviously, he is running for president of the United States. But here's the funny thing. You would expect his polls to dip. But Donald Trump has actually done better in the polls after saying that comment. Which, does that blow your mind?
Okay, well, to back up for just a second, one of the reasons why John Kerry has had such a different reception when it comes to this country and the fact that at some point folks were actually starting to take pot shots at his record was because, if you remember correctly, John Kerry was the one that came back from Vietnam and then started vehemently protesting against the war. That doesn't sit well with folks, especially service folks, so I can kind of understand why nobody wanted to come to his defense.
Well, I mean, I don't blame him for protesting a war that wasn't necessarily necessary, being that history shows we were probably backing the wrong side for most of the war.
So North Korea was the right side?
No, but...
North Vietnam, sorry.
Yeah, I know. If you remember, though, if you remember that John F. Kennedy was actually planning on backing the North, when then he died, Lyndon B. Johnson had made plans and backed the South.
You may have to try to find me some actual links about that, because I find it hard that any sitting president would have been trying to back a communist regime.
All right, I'll find it for you. But I'm almost positive that was the case. I could be wrong. I am a lot. But I mean, on the topic of Kennedy, which is kind of interesting, and on communism, if you don't mind, I'd like to jump ships to a interesting man I saw in Washington Square Park.
Sure.
All right, why not? So, and I kind of want your take on it. So, I mean, I'm gonna tell you the story, and then I will play the part of him, and I kind of want to see where this could probably get you pretty riled up, pretty rowdy. So, I'm walking through Washington Square Park. For those of you who don't know, in New York City, it's a very famous park, a meeting area for millions of people. It's where, like, the famous New York City arch is that comes after the arch in France. It's right by NYU. So this man writes on the ground with chalk, because that's a famous thing to do, or a lot of people do that. They write on the ground in chalk. And he writes this whole pro-communist thing. And I don't, unfortunately, have the quote, but I'll tell you what I remember from the top of my head. It was, don't listen to U.S. capitalist propaganda. Joseph Stalin and Mao Zedong both brought their countries from the 15th century into the 21st century. Then he said how, unfortunately, they both betrayed their ways and their country, but both men brought the standard of living into the 20th century and brought the living age up 20 years. And he was saying how, based off some book that he read, he got all this knowledge that, communism's the way, and communism this, and it wasn't even socialism. It was just straight up communism. And he was this young college guy, so I understand now. But his whole agenda was, or his whole quote was based around the fact that communism would be the best way to go. Now, I said, because he was copying this quote on an HP computer, and I said, you know what? In either of these men's countries, you would be killed for writing in chalk such bullshit that you're copying from your computer that you were able to buy because of the beauty of capitalism. And he responded that capitalism is built on the exploitation of workers, which, to an extent, I mean, very true. And I, responded, well, if it wasn't for what you call exploitation, those people would still have nothing. So either you pay them the 3 cents an hour, or they're going to get absolutely nothing. So it's kind of the best of a shitty situation. But I kind of want your opinion. So every time I would state how, capitalism has brought us beautiful things, he would say, yes, but on the back of exploitation and slavery and this and that. Then when I would say, the free market gives us prices and gives us this and that, he would say, well, the government can do that. He even went as far to say that voting doesn't do anything, so we shouldn't do it. And that obviously made him sound nuts. But I want your opinion. If I was telling you that, communism is the way because you won't exploit people, you can create a surplus of things, what would you say?
Okay, so before we get into that, I want to back up just a sec. I want to give a shout out to Tina, who I know is listening because you're sending me messages. And something that she pointed out is, yeah, Donald Trump may not be a good speaker, but his numbers in business should tell us something. I don't know. I mean, I would, don't get me wrong, I've been tweeting directly to Donald Trump for weeks now to try to see if I could get him on the show once I realized he'd actually come on a couple of smaller shows. So I'm still hoping to get a chance to sit down with him and give him a chance to tell his side of things without all the mainstream media bashing and attacking. But I just don't see him being the next president. Now,
well, let me just tell Tina real quick. Tina, if you're listening, you should definitely tune in to our next show, Opinion Nation, where I'm going to be going in depth about why I think I would rather vote for Donald Trump than Hillary Clinton. But back to your shout out to Tina. But Tina, don't forget, Opinion Nation. It's up next.
Well, I'm pretty sure she's listening on TuneIn, so it should roll right straight into that one anyway. But anyway, cool. So, back to this whole communism, best things in sliced bread, blah, 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 yada, 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 and how Mao Zedong is this great leader. Usually the first time anybody starts spouting crap about how Mao Zedong was such this great leader and brought his country into 21st century, blah, 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 yada, 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 I usually ask just this one simple question. How do you think 78 million people felt about Mao Zedong? And when they usually say, what are you talking about? That's the number of people that were killed under his regime.
Yeah, no, I said that. I said that to him, and he gave some bullshit number that, the government only killed 750,000 people. Those people just died. And he was obviously stupid. I mean, just blatant stupidity. And I think that I expressed my point very well. In fact, there were like 20 people around who ended up clapping for what I said. But I was saying how I believe the best type of government is a free market society where you have social programs so that, you stop people from falling through the cracks. Normal liberal socialist propaganda. But what he was saying, I think the part that kind of stopped everyone from arguing the most was when he was saying, we have too much invested in corporations and big business, and we don't care about the people because all of our stuff is built on the back of exploitation. So I guess what he's saying is that U.S. big business is the new slave owner. And I mean, that kind of is true.
Well, the problem is, and this is where you could have steered the argument at that point, the reason what he's saying is true is because we are no longer actually a capitalist country. We have become an oligarchy.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
If we were still a free market system, an actual true free market system, we wouldn't have nearly the exploitation that we do. Because the issue is, when you have a corporate system that is dictating one set of rules and a government system that is dictating another to you, and they are both competing to make sure that you have to stay under their thumb, you're ultimately going to be the loser. The problem is, and this is one of the things that I've been saying all along, if we would get back to the point where free market is able to reward those that succeed and weed out those that fail, eventually all we will have are strong businesses that get there on their own. The problem is we have way too many folks that are sucking at the government teat, getting all of this money for things that never should have been done in the first place, things that are done incorrectly, things that are done inefficiently. And because of all that government waste and spending and everything else, we don't have the money that we need from our tax money to be able to take care of the people that need it. If we would actually let the system run as intended, most of our problems would not be the way they are today. But let me tell you why we don't, and why we never will. Because if we fixed what was going on with the economy and we fixed what was going on with the government, neither of those things are very hard fixes. The problem is, if we fixed it, we wouldn't need the government nearly as much as we do now. And as of now, that has become the giant monster that has to justify its existence. It eats everything that is put in front of it because it has no choice, because it has to sustain itself. It has become a monster. And if it ever got to the point where we could fix it, we wouldn't need the people in D.C. nearly as much anymore. We wouldn't need the senators to go, well, we're going to get you this in our state here because, you know, this other group over here has cut your funding because of this, so vote for me and I'm going to fix it. The simple fact of the matter is they don't want things to be fixed. They want us fighting amongst ourselves. They want regular middle-class Americans fighting against the corporate aristocracy. They want the vocal voices fighting against the political aristocracy, because as long as we're fighting against one another, we can't come together to work with one another. And that is exactly why everything is as divided as it is right now. And that actually is a pretty good dovetail into one other thing that I definitely wanted to make sure that I touched on today. Two things, one of which you probably thought you would never hear from me. I do have to give the president a little bit of a kudos, because in this past week and a half, he actually became the first sitting president to go into a correctional facility and actually started talking about how our system of justice has become rather skewed. And I think in some respects I agree with most of what he said, because it's become a for-profit situation, much like the news media, and I don't agree with either one of those things being operated for profit. So in some ways, it's causing more problems than it's solving. And
so can I ask a question here?
Sure.
So let me just get this straight. On an industry that was promoted and started by Ronald Reagan, and now being denounced and possibly changed with the support of both John Boehner and Barack Obama, you are agreeing with Barack Obama.
Did I stutter?
This is such... Everybody listening should pause, rewind, play that clip back. What an amazing week. Wow. Okay, continue, sir.
Okay, so you know, just while Rice cleans up his little mess that I think he just made in his shorts, yes, I do not think that prison ever should have become a for-profit endeavor. That is not what it was designed to be. It was designed about It was designed around the concept of rehabilitation, not designed about a bunch of corporate shareholders trying to figure out how they can make money off of a bad situation. Now, the one thing that I will say that annoyed the crap out of me, because I found an article that I wanted to go back and fact check. Speaking of which, I have to call total BS to it. I actually linked it to you earlier today. There's been an article circulating that at some point during his NAACP speech this past week, right before he went to the prison, that he had made a statement about wanting to make sure that flags like the Confederate flag and the Gadsden flag did not fly on any government buildings. So, of course, that got completely blown out of proportion, and everybody started talking about, well, now he's trying to ban this flag, too. First problem is, as far as I know, the clip that I found said it was the speech in its entirety. It may or may not be, I don't know. But I did listen to the entire 45 minutes. Never going to be the same again. But I couldn't hear the reference that everybody was referring to. What I did hear, which completely annoyed the crap out of me, was hearing a president who basically kept talking about how, you know, the prison population is predominantly black and Latino, and that even in today's day and age, blacks have a harder time than everybody else. Latinos are right there with them. And I'm just thinking, you are a black man.
Well, wait, but that is true.
No, hang on a second. But I'm not saying it's not true, but give me a second, because this is the first thought that ran through my head. Because this is what I wanted to see happen with his presidency, and he's had now 7 years to do it, and he hasn't done it yet. This is something that he's not ever done, and this is something that he could have done. This could have been the presidency that turned everything around when it came to all the crap that's still broken. Instead of doing what he's doing, which is continuing to build off of it and make it worse, because again, they want us fighting with each other, otherwise they don't need us. So the more they can keep us divided, the more we are arguing with one another, the less we're paying attention to the stupid crap that they're doing. So, but this is what he could have done, and he didn't do it. He could have said, yes, in this country, things still aren't perfect. Blacks, high crime rates, high arrest rates, higher population in prison. Latinos, the same thing. So let's look into why that's happening instead of what he ultimately did, which is basically blame the white people because their numbers are different. Well, he could have stood there as a
racism. That's racism. There's got to be some level of racism that you see in that, though, because if we have all these numbers coming back...
Hang on a second.
They're committing the same crime.
No, hang on a second. No, the numbers are not the same. You're forgetting a couple of very different things. In a lot of places, blacks commit a lot more crimes, and so do Latinos. And it's because most of them are raised by single-parent families.
And we're not going to say that that's as a result of some form of racism in our society. That there's no race playing a role in how blacks, Latinos are raised in our society and how the police handle them.
Okay, so hang on a second, because you're taking this in a different direction. Let's get back to the fact that a black freaking president of the United States was the one making these statements. How could he not? I mean, he's had 7 years to say, look, yes, things are still broken in this country, but if I got here, God damn it, you can too. And he hasn't done it yet. So you tell me what's more broken than that.
He has said that. He did say that. He said
one time.
He said that if a black boy from Hawaii and a black young girl from the South Side, and he put on a little accent for his wife, can become the president and the first lady, then anything is possible in this country.
Yeah, and he said it what, one time?
He just said it.
When?
He was speaking to a whole group of black kids when he just said he couldn't rap. He said, I'll pull up the clip now.
He says it to a bunch of black kids. But does he say it to a group like the NAACP, the people that have been fighting for all of these changes for 100 years? No. What he does is say, well, we're not there yet, folks. Never mind the fact that I'm the first black president and that if I got here, somebody else could probably, by God, do it too. No, everything's still broken, everything still sucks, but I'm going to make it better. That pisses me off, because he's had 7 years to say, look, this country still has problems, but I got here, so by God, you can too. Quit making excuses. That's the thing that pisses me off about all of this. As soon as anything goes sideways, the first thing anybody does, regardless of their damn skin color anymore, is go, it's that guy's fault. Or if I'd have had both of my parents, this would be different. Or if I'd have had more money, this would be different. You know what? Everybody's born the exact same way in life. We all come out either ass first or head first, and we have to determine what we're going to do with our lives. Nobody else can make those choices for us. Now, I agree with some of what he said, because everybody's done things that are stupid. The only difference between a lot of folks that are on the outside of the prison right now and a lot of folks that are on the inside of the prison right now is those folks on the inside, they got caught. But they still have to be the ones to deal with the consequences, because they were the ones that made the choices. So quit telling me how broken everything is and how it's all because we're all a bunch of fucking racists, because that's not true. I am not a racist. I have never been a racist. I don't look at anybody and say, oh, look, there's a black guy. I say, oh, look, there's a guy that I know. It doesn't matter to me what color your skin is. It never has. It never will. I don't care.
I'm not saying that anyone here is a racist. I'm not saying that you're a racist at all. But what I am saying is that there must be an element of racism when it comes to our policing or our prison systems, because it's inexcusable that you have people committing the same crime at the same rate, but yet one group is in prison far more often, in and out, circulated back through the system, and another is not. And just look at the Sandra Bland video, for example. That cop made a previous stop, some college girl, white, ask her, oh, what college classes are you taking? What are you doing this year? How's your school year going? All right, have a nice day. And with Sandra Bland, that man was freaking looking for trouble. But that's just an example of how we have a problem of racism that is in our society.
Pardon me, I'm going to mute my mic while I start banging my head against the desk again.
Nobody's bringing it up.
Nobody's bringing it up because it's not nearly as bad as people on your side of the fucking argument want to say that it is. You guys point to these isolated incidents and say, oh, look, there's racism everywhere in the police force. Until you pin a fucking badge and a gun on, shut your mouth.
I don't know. I mean, there's got to be a different way that we can go about doing this so that
have you done it? Hey, have you ever done a traffic stop?
No.
Have you ever stopped somebody because they were doing something they weren't supposed to and had to have been the one to deal with it?
Yes, I have. Yes.
So you've been in a position of authority, caught someone breaking the law, and had to be the one to deal with it.
Just the other week, I mean, I'm not saying he was necessarily breaking the law. I didn't know if that was what you were asking. But I was actually in Harlem, because that's where I work. And a man was brutally, verbally attacking this lady, assumingly it was his girlfriend, and brutally, verbally attacking her. And I went up to him and I said, knock it off. That's not how you talk to a woman. So, I mean, in a sense, I broke that up. But I don't think that's what you're necessarily talking about. That's what I thought you meant, though.
Well, no, the reason I'm asking is because, here's the thing. Everybody likes to give the cops a hard time. Everybody likes to say how cops should do things differently. Everybody likes to say how if I was a cop, that wouldn't have ever happened. The problem is, none of the people that are making these statements have ever done any type of law enforcement. They've never had any type of law enforcement training, and they don't have a fucking clue as to what the hell they're talking about. Because the simple fact of the matter is, yes, it may have been a different situation from one person to the next, but it always is. A lot of what dictates how an officer deals with a person is how that person initially reacts to them. It doesn't have a damn thing to do with skin color or anything else. If you pull a traffic stop and you come up and you say, hey, license and registration, and the person gives it to you and says, hey, start smiling, hey, officer, how are you? I'm not sure what I did, but here's my stuff. That's different. But when you get somebody that says, what the fuck are you stopping me? It's because I'm black, ain't it? And no, I'm not saying that that's what happened in this instance because I haven't seen the video. What I do know is I'm really tired of all of these people that have never spent a single moment in any type of a uniform, going all the way back to Donald Trump at the beginning of the show, that are talking crap about people that have done service and have done time in uniforms, whether it's military, law enforcement, IMSA, I don't care. You don't have the right to talk shit unless you've done it. Period.
It's not talking shit, that's the thing. There's clearly a problem here because we are seeing that there is clearly a difference. And I don't think that every single time that there's a black person getting pulled over, they're saying, yo, fucker, why you pull me over? There's clearly something...
When did Rocky become a black guy?
Undertone that cops have with people of color. And it's not in all cases. No. I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
and I'm not
that's
saying...
pretty much just what you said before you walked it back.
No,
but I have a question.
Cops are bad. I'm just saying there are shitty cops.
I have a question. When did Rocky become a black guy?
I'm so confused.
Because you were like, hey, yo, why you pulling me over? That sounded more like Rocky than a black guy. Just saying.
I'm sorry. But, it's true. It's true. There's some element that, when you see a black person, the social idea is to say, oh, shit, that's a criminal right there. That is a freaking... You lock the door. I mean, that, I feel...
Nice to know what's running through your head when you see a black person, because that thought's never occurred to me.
That's not my view at all. But I feel like that's what a lot of these cops are saying. And
so you're a mind reader now?
No, but that must be it. I mean, I don't know if they're not passing all these social judgments.
So hang on a second. You just basically said that you think that the cops are going into a situation and going, oh shit, it's a black guy, it must be a criminal. Really?
I mean, I think that they're treating blacks differently than they're treating a white person. If the same cop saw me, they would treat me a lot differently. I mean, there have been so many instances that we don't even hear about, but that are there, where there was an example about cops who shot dead a black guy, 6'4". He was driving the same car that was a different car, same model car, stolen. He was just driving home. Cop pulls him over, shoots him. He was 6'4". The person that they were looking for is black and like 5'3" or something like that. We have Tamir Rice, 12-year-old boy walking around, toy gun. Yeah, there's mystery surrounding what he was doing with that toy gun, but I feel like if they saw a white kid, they wouldn't have mowed him down. I feel like there's just so many instances where if the person was white, then it would have been all right.
So again, I think you're letting your personal prejudices actually color your conversations, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, because it happens a lot more than anybody wants to realize. But the simple fact of the matter is, again, until you take the time to put on a uniform, you really shouldn't be judging the actions of others, unless you can see clear and blatant proof that they're doing something completely stupid. Now, I will admit there's been more of that than I've wanted to see recently, but I will not hold an entire nation of police officers accountable for the actions of a few stupid people. Unlike the media, who is now vilifying an entire race of people because of the actions of one crazy white guy waving a Confederate flag.
I'm not vilifying the entire cops. I'm just saying that there is something stupid that must be heard, that the number of people incarcerated, even in solitary confinement, once you're in prison.
Have you looked at the numbers, though? Have you honestly?
Yes.
No, I'm not talking about the incarceration rates. I'm talking about the crime rates. The reason that there are so many more incarcerated black people in this country and so many more incarcerated Latinos in this country is because they are predominantly committing more crimes than pretty much anybody else in their age demographics.
I would say it's more so that they're from less affluent areas where there's heavier policing. So subsequently we see heavier levels of police, and therefore they're caught more often than a white kid. Because, look, in my town, I'm not gonna, say anything, but you could go smoke a blunt wherever the freak you want, and you can get pot in the high school like, it's a penny on the floor. I mean, it's ridiculous, and I think that's in high schools all over the country. I go to TOPS, one of the better public schools in New Jersey, but that doesn't change anything. But if you were in a, black area, Latino area, where you had that same problem, I guarantee you there would be a different outcome. It wouldn't be as easy to find because you'd have people getting arrested every day. Because that's where we're policing more.
Are you kidding me? Are you honestly kidding me right now? I am so tired of this race disparity BS because this is crap. The simple fact of the matter is, I don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic. If you're dumb enough to buy a joint and you get caught with it, as long as it's illegal, then you deserve whatever the hell the consequences are. If you are dumb enough to commit a crime and you get caught, then you are dumb enough to face whatever the hell the consequences are. The simple fact of the matter is, if you take the rest of the argument out of the picture about how much differently white criminals and black criminals and Hispanic criminals are treated, the simple fact of the matter is, if they weren't committing the crime, it wouldn't be a problem.
But half the things shouldn't be a crime in the first place.
That's not up to you.
That is true. That is true.
You don't like the laws? Do something to change them. But until they are, quit bitching because you were dumb enough to break one and you're the one that got caught.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, well, we are officially out of time already, believe it or not. We're going to have to go ahead and wrap things up so I can start making room for Bryce to have a few minutes to talk without me yelling in his ear.
Hey, it's always a...
Can you tell I haven't done a show in a few days? I felt like I had some pent-up frustration I had to let out.
It's all right. I mean, we all do.
All right.
Maybe in the next week we could talk about climate change and I can yell in your ear.
Oh, God, please no climate change. Next thing you know, you'll be bitching about cow farts.
Hey, that's not funny. They shouldn't be farting. We have to plug it up, we have to put solar panels on their backs, and we have to regulate it.
The sad thing is, if I didn't know you any better, I'd almost think you were serious. Sad thing is, you probably are.
I mean, I am.
All right, folks, we'll be back next week. Here in just a couple minutes, we will change gears, and you'll be listening to Bryce all alone with two guests doing Opinion Nation.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems, but perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.